Do you often have intense feelings of sadness after buying a new toy? Do you find yourself wanting to buy the next cool thing, but then find your wallet hiding underneath a pile of undesired figures? Do you have exceptionally powerful gas? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you may be suffering from ibsidwenib, otherwise known as I bought shit I don't want and now I'm broke disorder. Hi, I'm Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and I'm here today to tell you that even though this is a serious disorder that affects many collectors, there is hope. There are a few steps you can take which can remove some of these symptoms or maybe remove the disorder from your life altogether. You can start to rid yourself of this disorder by following these 10 simple steps. The first step to alleviating this disorder is to find a reviewer you can trust. In today's day and age, no matter what the person's reviewing, you have to be careful that they don't have ulterior motives. Some people review things simply for the money, and some review them to actually help the viewers. You have to make sure you find the right person. And even then, once you find the right reviewer with the right motives, you have to make sure they know what they're talking about. If the person's reviewing something from just a consumer standpoint, they may not provide you with the information you need to make an informed buying decision. You need to find somebody with specific and direct knowledge on whatever it is that they're reviewing. A reviewer like this is a great resource to help you determine what you want to spend your money on so that you don't have to spend your money on things that may leave you feeling let down. The second step in this plan to recovery is to use the information from a review appropriately. Now, just because a reviewer gives something a positive review, that doesn't mean the item is necessarily right for you. The information in a review is there to help you make your decision, not to tell you what to do. It's very important to keep this in mind. You have to decide for yourself which information is actually relevant to you. You may not care about something that's an objective problem. You can just overlook that, and that's fine. So you need to make sure that you're actually deciding what's important to you. Use the review as a resource, not a direct guide for what you need to buy. Remember, it is possible to like something that's riddled with problems or to hate something that is technically a really good quality item. It really comes down to buyer choice, so use that information to inform your decisions. Step number 3 is to not follow trends. Remember, you can't spell trend without end, or the other letters in the word. Trends can be a great way to get people to spend money on things that they don't actually want. Now, if you happen to actually want something that's part of a popular trend, go for it. Buy it, that's fine. But don't buy something just because everyone else is. Once the trend dies out, which it inevitably will, you're gonna be left with things that you spent good hard-earned money on that you don't actually want. And typically, once the trend ends, the stuff's not worth any money anymore at all, so you can't even recoup some of your costs by selling it on the secondhand market. Step number 4 is kind of a big one. You don't want to try to be the cool kid on the internet. Being the first person to own the next action figure that comes out isn't really going to do anything for you. You might get a couple people acknowledge the fact that you have it, but in a couple of days or weeks or maybe even minutes, somebody's going to have the exact same thing. So don't spend money to get something early unless you actually have a reason for doing it. You're going to end up spending more for the exact same item that Bob down the street just bought for half the price, even though we got it only a few minutes later. And it's money you could be spending on more stuff. Wouldn't you rather have more stuff than early stuff? Now, sometimes there is a reason to get something early. As a reviewer, I know myself, I sometimes spend more so that I can review something sooner so people can see it and the review is more useful. However, if you're not reviewing it, it really doesn't matter if it's on your shelf now or next Tuesday. Save the money, spend it on something that you want. Step number 5 on this list is to not buy items for investment purposes. Action figures these days, or collectibles in general, even though they're exclusive sometimes, are still made in relatively large numbers. The production runs are bigger than they have ever been on most items. They're not going to hold their value as well as things used to. They used to produce incredibly small numbers, and so they were very hard to come by. It was also less easy to get them because there weren't things like the internet. Today, it's easy to get just about anything you want, almost without even trying. So be aware that if you're buying something for investment purposes, you're really just gambling. Sometimes it does work out for things that are exceptionally rare, or for whatever reason people really want them and have a hard time finding them, but that's 1 in a dozen. And even experienced collectors sometimes run into a case where they think that's going to happen and then it doesn't. So you're going to be out the money and you don't have anything to show for it but a figure you don't want that ended up losing money rather than gaining it. Step number 6 is kind of a simple one, but you really should think about this. Don't keep the figure in the package unless you actually like it that way. Kind of off of number 5, it's not likely to go up in value, and it doesn't do you any good to buy an action figure, which has the purpose of being posed, and then to keep it in a plastic or cardboard box. You don't get to appreciate the item, and it's not going to maintain its value. The key here is to do what you like. If you don't appreciate the item because it's still in the box, it's not doing you any good. You've essentially just spent money for something that can just sit there, and you can't appreciate it. You need to be able to open it and appreciate it if that happens to be what you're into. Step number 7 is to not blame scalpers or anybody else for things that you don't like. Remember, this is a luxury item that you're trying to buy. This person selling it cannot set the price. The price is determined by the people willing to pay for it. So if somebody's willing to pay a whole lot more for something, you don't have to get mad at the seller, and you don't have to pay more than retail yourself in most cases. Have a little bit of patience. You can save your money, maybe buy multiple things in the meantime, and eventually that item that just hit shelves and people are paying all kinds of money for will come down to the original MSRP. A little bit of patience goes a long way. Now, there are going to be some cases where the thing is an event exclusive or convention exclusive, and the price will have to be higher than the original retail. It just is the way things are. However, you don't have to pay those high prices that some people are willing to pay to scalpers in order to get the item. Typically speaking, the prices do spike in the beginning, but then they do kind of fall back down a little bit and maybe eventually go back up, but there's almost always a sweet spot right here a little bit after release and before things start to go back up where you can get the item for a little bit less than most people are willing to spend. So make sure you bide your time, use a little bit of patience, and don't spend time being upset at who's selling the item for what price or who bought it at what price. Just be patient and be happy. Step number 8 is to use eBay, but use it carefully. eBay's a great way to buy items that aren't readily available at retail. It's hard to find things sometimes, so you can go to eBay and buy it from somebody who did. Now, you do have to use some patience, like I mentioned. Sometimes the prices are too high in the beginning and you want to wait it out, but here's the thing. Sometimes the prices are too low, and if that's the case, you're probably buying a fake, and you don't want to waste your money on a fake figure. I mean, sometimes you might. If it's cheap enough and you don't really care, then that's fine, do your thing. But if you're trying to buy an authentic, genuine piece, you have to be very careful. eBay's a great place to get shafted on a not so genuine figure. Couple tips for that, sub-tips if you want to call it that. Don't buy from a seller from China. Odds are they're selling factory runoffs or other types of fakes that are, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways. So just be careful. If the price is really cheap and the seller is from China, odds are it's not a genuine figure. You have to also be very careful that you're not buying it used from a US seller who already bought it from a Chinese seller, because it could be a secondhand fake. So you just have to be very careful. And if you're not sure about the item, because like I said, you can get tricked based on the location of the seller, just don't risk it. If you're buying something that is known to be knocked off or bootlegged on a regular basis, you might want to avoid it altogether on eBay. Sometimes it's worth paying a little bit more from a trusted seller, a trusted online retailer, than it is to spend less and buy a potential fake. More money sometimes equals better product, and that way you end up being happy with what you bought rather than paying less but still being let down. Step number 9 kind of goes with step number 8, and that is to only use trusted sites. We live in a day and age where the internet is just bigger and more powerful than ever, and you have everybody and their uncle starting a new website. Not all of them are going to be trustworthy. Make sure if you're buying something from an online retailer that they have a reputation. And sometimes reputation isn't always enough. You want to check for a couple specific things. Make sure that they take PayPal. If they take PayPal, you know you're pretty much always covered. Now, if they don't take PayPal, you can still pay with a credit card, but here's what you should do first. Do a quick Google search and make sure that there's some positive reviews out there for the retailer. Pretty much every website out there has a review on it, so it's really easy. You can look them up. You can even look them up at the Better Business Bureau and make sure that they're a reputable site before you give them your credit card information. There are plenty of sites out there that haven't been shut down yet, which are less than savory, so don't start giving anybody your money until you know you're going to get what you want. Now, step number 10, and this is the most important step out of probably all of them. If you're gonna buy used stuff, you better clean it once you get it. People are freaking nasty. Think about how likely it is that the person who owned the figure before you was playing with it on the toilet. Or maybe he dropped it on the floor and picked it up between his toes. Or maybe he just got done popping a fresh Mountain Dew-induced zit before setting the figure on top of a shelf covered in dust made up of his dead skin cells. Realistically, it doesn't have to even be any of that. Even clean people are gross to other people. You don't want other people's body gunk or pet gunk or any of their gunk. No gunk at all on your figure, so you should clean it, really, even if you know the person you bought it from. Couple things to keep in mind. There's not much you can do with soft goods on most figures. Even if they do come off of the figure, you can't likely wash that cape in your permanent press. It'll probably get ruined, so you have to be extra careful for buying items like that. You're gonna have to kind of just hope that it's not a filthy, stinking mess. Now, for plastic parts, you have a lot more leeway. Even if they do have metal rivets or metal parts, you don't have to worry about rust too much as long as you don't leave the figure sitting in a bucket of water. Go ahead and clean them with soap and water. I recommend light hand soap or basically anything that you can use on your hands on a regular basis. You probably want to avoid soaps with perfume in them, but pretty much any soap you're going to be able to use on your hands is going to be okay for the figure as long as you rinse it off effectively. Now, sometimes you're going to get a figure that needs a little bit more than just some hand soap. Now, I've had personally really good experience using Clorox wipes. You have to be careful, there's a chance they could hurt things, so do this at your own risk and do it with a little bit of common sense. If something looks fragile or like it maybe is a particularly porous material, you don't want to introduce a whole lot of chemicals, but if it's just your standard Marvel Legends figure or something like that, you're probably going to be okay if you want to give it a quick rub down with a good old bleach wipe. Might be better than getting toe gunk on your hands. And another side note, a side step to this step, which is going to be the last one, smoke doesn't come out. If you're buying a figure that was from a smoker and you're not, so you're probably not going to really be too happy about having a smoke smelling figure, you can't get it out. There's no good way to remove it completely. There are some things you can do to help, like leaving them outside for an extended period of time. Fresh air does work a little bit, but you have to leave them out there for a long time, so that's not generally a good idea. Baking soda can help a little bit sometimes, but again, it doesn't really work. Even trying to clean them with vinegar sometimes kind of helps, but not completely. You're never going to be able to get rid of that smell. So if you don't want that smell, make sure it doesn't have it to begin with. Even if a figure is brand new, still sealed in its packaging, if that packaging smells, odds are the figure is going to inside. So don't buy a figure new in box that smells like smoke thinking you can take it out and it'll be okay. Odds are it got some of that smoke smell on it too, and it's gonna stay there forever. Alright guys, thanks for watching. That does it for this month's top 10 list. If you have any other tips for buyers, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. You never know, maybe somebody will be helped out there some way, somehow, with even some of the most common sense type of advice. So it doesn't hurt. Let's share our personal collecting tips in the comment section. I think that'll be fun. And if you were around last month for the top 10 list, you know I did a giveaway, and I'm announcing the winner this time. So if you look in the description below and you see your name as the person who won, you won. You can contact me any way you like. You can contact me through YouTube, through my website, however you want to do it. Get in touch. I'll get your address and then I'll send you out your prize. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So that's pretty much it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really hope you appreciated this video. If you found any of these tips helpful, you can let me know that in the comment section below too. And if you did find this video helpful, you may want to subscribe to the channel. I do have new videos up just about every single day. Sometimes though, there are lulls where there are no videos, like this past week where I just didn't have anything to review. But generally speaking, they are up almost every single day. So if you like content on a regular basis and you find things like this helpful, you might want to subscribe. So go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, keep collecting. Ipsid-Nib disorder is a made-up disorder, and I am not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. This is only meant to be humorous and helpful to grown men who buy toys. If you have to be told that, you should probably seek out a real doctor and get some real therapy.